Here, so Erika Anderson co-founded Storytell with the mission of building AI with integrity. She's created a framework called Clean Communication to help humans communicate more effectively, which Storytell has adopted and is building into the product. You'll hear more about that. Please welcome Erika.
Thank you, thanks so much. Hi, everyone. So I'm Erika Anderson, co-founder and chief customer officer of Storytell, the enterprise collaborative intelligence platform. And can you hear me okay? Yeah, great, awesome. So it's been amazing to get to know so many of you this week. And before I go into what Storytell is, I actually want to tell you a story. And that story is about me. And what I've learned from a lifetime of crafting narratives is that who is telling the story absolutely shapes what the story is. And I'm realizing that I am missing a clicker. But maybe I can do some magic and say, next slide, please. Uh-oh, Alex. Okay, great. It'll be a collaborative effort. So let's start at the beginning, which is where I was born, on a hippie commune in Tennessee. So this is my family. This is me, like pretty much the same. And my parents, my sisters were all wearing traditional hippie garb, long hair, dresses, overalls, nothing. And I wrote about it for Vanity Fair because it wasn't just any hippie commune, it was the archetypal hippie commune. And so if we could go to the next slide. Awesome, thank you, Alex. So this is the founder, and just have a look here, and maybe we'll even, right, I've got the power now, hurrah. Zoom in here. So this is actually here in the Bay Area. It was started in San Francisco. And if you just have a look at all these adoring faces of everyone looking up to this leader, what could possibly go wrong? 1,500 people living together, creating their own village. And, of course, there were all the ideals, the promises, peace, love, happiness. But there was also this promise of truth. And the way that was lived was through brutal honesty. And that's meant that I've really spent my life living these questions of how can we approach conflict differently? How can we use it to transform, to connect with ourselves, to connect with each other? And hence, what you heard about, clean communication. So I've spent so much of my life learning pretty much every communication practice in the book and teaching it to other people, individuals, teams, co-founders, because there has to be a better way. And there's actually a lot of ways. So I'm just gonna touch on a few aspects of clean communication. There's a lot to it. But the high level in the clean communication protocol are these 3 levels here. So there's level 1, which is where we think all work happens, right? The logical level, rational, deliverables, dates, etc. And then there's level 2, which we also know is going on. But there's usually not a great pathway to express that. So maybe you're feeling frustrated, your body's activated, but it's all externally focused. So it's very, you are the problem, you don't respect me. So it's all out here, it's pointing fingers. And level 3 is where we rarely get to in the workplace, vulnerability. So what's going on with me internally? What is driving all of this? And if you want to have a look, you can use that QR code to go a little deeper. Okay, so why am I talking about all this? How did we end up here? Why did I co-found an AI company? Because this is my address. the intersection of humanity and technology. So I'm passionate about humanity, and I can scale it to the world through technology. Now, does anyone notice the extra letter on here? Okay, what is it? Dun, dun, dun. Yes, thank you. So I don't know if Jenny is still around, but we left that there for you. And so we are all here this week as leaders. And as leaders, it's our responsibility to take care of our people. So how are people doing? You know, I think the norm, the default, is that work sucks the life out of us. You know, it's joyless, it's dissatisfying. But don't take my word for it. So let's look at this Gallup poll of the 2023 Global State of the Global Workforce report. So we'll just start by orienting ourselves. We've got time here on the x-axis and percentage engagement on the y-axis. So essentially, like, what level of enthusiasm are you bringing? And this is the it's the average for the entire world. This is the average 33% engagement for the US. Whereas check out this huge gap here at 70% engagement for best practice organizations. So this gap, that's the opportunity. And it's not just any kind of opportunity, it's almost $9 trillion opportunity. And it's one that we are looking to solve. So our whole reason for being at Storytell, the reason to create the company, is to make life meaningful by making work meaningful. And really following off of Muriel's presentation earlier today, simply by automating those rote processes that suck the life out of people, you can bring so much joy. It's really easy to bring into some kind of well-being program, but just like I was sharing with clean communication, if we're not getting to the source, we're not actually going to solve the problem. Okay, so just like with the Gallup poll, don't trust me. Of course, I'm going to say our company is great. I'm one of the co-founders. I want you to hear it from one of our users. So this is from a recent webinar. As you'll notice in the title, How We Learned to Stop Worrying and Love AI. It is a nod to the classic film by Dr. Strangelove. And Cheryl is a technical writer. Now keep in mind that we are doing a horizontal platform play, so it's not just for any one role or any one use case. But I really want you to get the opportunity to hear from her how she's using Storytell and what impact that's having on her life.
Our esteemed panelists here, starting with Cheryl Solis.
I have an extensive background in technical writing. I've also served as a writing consultant in Silicon Valley for various companies like Atlassian comes to mind.
What is it that you're using Storytell or AI for?
The unstructured data. So as a technical writer, we have to synthesize lots of information coming from many different sources. Interviews with engineers, videos, Slack messages, write-ups, notes, and this too is coming from many different points of origin. What I found out at Stellit is many of my engineers working in Europe and elsewhere, they like to create videos explaining a product or a feature. And at first I started, sort of reviewing those videos and manually picking out the right information. That was exhausting. And faced with the complexity of trying to understand, say, we might have a feature launch and I have 30 days to assemble documentation for 7 different products, all of which are extremely complex. Edge caching on CDNs, metrics for GraphQL, that became an almost insurmountable task. And so the choice was miss deadlines or leverage what AI can do. And so I was able to upload all this information and start creating, through Storytell's tags, the type of structures that I was looking for. What I was able to do is upload my information, tag the parts of it that were either concepts or pure reference or tasks, and then have the AI stitch them together for me. With Storytell, I was able to upload our corporate information or the engineering information and have it distill the descriptions for a glossary. But what it does do is increase productivity by offloading repetitive tasks. And that gives me the freedom to focus on more complex content like tutorials and walkthroughs. And although companies may say, we want you to have a good work-life balance, the necessity of meeting your launch dates really shuts that aside. If something has to go out, it has to go out. But using the AI for common rote tasks helped me to achieve a work-life balance that I really haven't had in any other company. Largely because even with many writers, the necessity of meeting deadlines just kind of turns that whole idea of work-life balance on its head. So AI has been able to enhance my life in giving me that balance.
That's amazing. And I think that's part of making life meaningful as well, is having that balance.
So I don't know how well you were able to hear that. Maybe it was a little echoey, but right at the end, Cheryl was saying, for the first time, I've been able to achieve work-life balance. So this is a lifelong knowledge worker. Just think about how meaningful that is for someone. And like I said, it's not just for technical writing. And so this is one of our users, Stephen Atwell. He's a product manager. And something that he's shared with us about using Storytell is well-designed products can feel amazing. What's unique about Storytell is it makes me feel amazing. Or you have Grant Simmons, who's a VP at an ad tech company. And he's just been telling everyone in his company, as it's jumped from department to department, Storytell makes me feel like a superhero. He can deliver many proposals that are customized in a day just using Storytell. So this is where we are today, snapshot. 100,000 users at all these companies and more. And this is where we're headed. So the integrations and file types that we have now, that we're moving toward, and that we'll have in the future. Because all of this knowledge tends to be stuck in so many different SaaS platforms. I don't know if you have a sense of how many SaaS platforms you use at your organization. The average is about 300. And we want you to be able to extract insights and generate content from all of it. And last thing I will share here before we jump into Q&A is that something that we have in the architecture of our new build, we're calling an LLM router, so that you can choose the right LLM for the job. So Alex has talked about this week, every algorithm has bias. That's exactly how it's built. So that's why it's so important to choose the right one. And our LLM router can do that for you. So I'd like to invite my co-founder, Drodio, up to the stage for Q&A. And in terms of where we are in our journey, we're very early stage. And we do have an open safe. And this QR code will just send an email right to us, to the co-founders of Storytell. We'd love to hear from you. I think just to continue the conversations that we've started here this week in terms of, if you think of, I think it was Kelly's presentation on Wednesday, how to have strategic AI conversations, and Muriel's today. Those are exactly the kinds of conversations that we're having with our users and customers. So whether Storytell is a solution or it's something else, just the importance of, hey, let's bring up the pain, let's surface the problem, and let's see how we can navigate around that. So Drodio, I'd love for you to join me.
Yes, I'm joining, and also Alex recommends that we show you one more thing. So we're gonna pull up one more thing, which is a way that we were using Storytell this week with all of you. And to walk you through this, a lot of you had questions that weren't answered by the speakers because we're all time-poor humans. And so we took those questions and we thought, for example, with Shuo's presentation, what if Shuo could answer your questions right now? And so we took the questions and we loaded them into Storytell. So this is an example of the content that we loaded in. Not only did we load in her presentation, but we loaded in a lot of other content across the web that Shuo, it's about 5 to 7 hours of content from Shuo. We tagged it as Singularity University. And then here's an example question that we asked. So I don't know if the person's still in the room because I don't have the identifiable data of this, but if you're here and you were asking about this question, let's see what Shuo would say. So we asked Storytell, how would Shuo answer this question? And Storytell gave us an answer. Here's the answer. But there's one thing about the answer that I was curious about. She didn't talk about being appointed to California's Mental Health Commission in her talk. And so I clicked on it, and Storytell brought up the source data of where that came from. It was from a different talk that she did. Storytell gave the ground truth data as well as the part in the video where she started talking about being appointed to the commission. So this is just an example of how Storytell can work. You can smart chat with Shuo right here, by the way, if you'd like to. We have, yeah, we can do this for all the speakers. Yep.
Yeah, hey, co-founder.
Yeah, I'll come up.
Me. Is it on me? Okay, my bad. Biggest challenge running this startup? Any startup? I know you're both
I think,
founders.
yeah, for me, I mean, we really see it as two things, as when you're building a product to believe in and a place to belong. And as you can imagine, with this whole clean communication background, which is a value we have at Storytell, we train in that. I have a lot of thoughts and feelings about culture, but if you're not building a product to believe in, you're not going to survive long enough for the culture to matter. So I think balancing those two is a challenge that can kind of tug at the heart.
+1.
Oh, we're close on time, but if there is a question in the room, I
can
do not
share my
have a
mic.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So this is extremely impressive for sure. So just to summarize it, you could take all the enterprise content, put it into Storytell.ai, and get a kind of a summarized version of that content. So it works very well for technical writing. Now I just have two questions. If that understanding is correct. So I have two questions. One is, how do you ensure that there is no hallucination? I think you touched upon a point where you showed that link. But then does it mean that we need to manually validate everything that is kind of summarized to ensure accuracy and there is no such issue in terms of leakage? And second question that I have is, how do you make sure that the summarization actually is of high quality? It could be that the content has really missed some really good salient points and not really captured what a human may perceive as important.
Actually, I have one architecture slide. I don't know if I have time to pull it up for a second.
That's a Brian question. Can you bring his slide back for a
Brian,
second?
if you can, if you can pull him back up, I'll just answer your question by showing a slide. So let's go to, this one's a good place to start. What we believe to be true is that it's not necessarily going to be about high quality. It might be. It's probably going to be just as much or more about the enterprise being able to permission the knowledge worker's task to the right LLM or source to answer it, which might be about quality, but might be about cost, it might be about speed, it might be about on-prem permissioning. And so the way that we're thinking about it is, we're building a platform that sits on top of all the innovation that's coming from the LLMs. For the knowledge worker, we're making things accessible. We're making AI accessible. I don't want to be thinking about whether I should be using GPT-4 1106 Vision Preview or some open source model if I'm a finance knowledge worker at a company. I just want to ask my question and get the response back. But the company absolutely cares. And so what we have specifically about quality is what we call a teacher. This teacher will basically escalate the request based on the quality. So if the company says we want speed and cost effectiveness first, we're going to do that first. If it's not a good enough answer, we can escalate it to a different LLM that's going to give a better answer. There's a lot more to it, but maybe that helps answer the question. Okay.
We are out of time for you guys, but thank you so much. And you're around
We are
as
around,
well.
yeah.
And I think we are uploading the link to interact with some of the speakers to the takeaways as well, right? I just owe you all the questions that they've been asking.
Exactly.
Good, I can get you that. Wonderful, thank you so much.
I'll take a minute.